Okay guys, this is going to be a little different. This is going to be called Why Cover Crops and No-Till Don't Work in My Soil. Now, I no-tilled this field. This is the 6th year of no-till. Now, I know I had problems with my planter. So, let's get that one out of the way first. Okay? Now, the reason this corn is so thin looking. This was corn that was not truly graded for a plate planter. So you'll have places like that. Okay, that's from doubles dropping. They're small flats and, you know, larger flats. So you can't get a C plate to fit correctly. But that's not what I'm going to be talking about here. When I planted this field, burn down was applied and was on the ground roughly 10 days before I planted. In fact, in the video I did just before I planted this, I said in the video, you know, this stuff was big enough, thick enough, I could have baled it. Now, that gets back to why cover crops and straight no-till in my soil do not work. As you can see, there's a lot of, well, right here is a perfect example. That's a pretty good mat. Not a heavy mat, but there are places in here that are heavily matted. This soil will hold on to water. And if you cover it, it makes it hold even more. So, you know, it can be a problem. Now, guys will argue no-till works everywhere. Well, it really depends on the soil and the soil type. As you can see, as I pan around, this corn in this part of the field, this is what it looks like. And it looks this way because of the heavy residue. That's why everybody around here, I'm talking in a 5-mile radius of this farm, all of them, every single one, runs a turbo till on the ground a day or two before, or 3, before they plant it. The reason being is to cut this residue up and get the soil to dry out, to dry and air. The day I planted this, I made the comment on video that it smelled funky. I even took a plug and smelled it. And it had the scent of like a wet animal across this whole field. Well, across this half of the field anyway. Half of this field was plowed up fall of 2012. The corn on that half of it is a lot cleaner. It didn't have this grass. Now, this grass was thick. So that half planted a lot better and is doing better now than this half that wasn't plowed that had the heavy residue. In fact, there's a good prime example of it right up here, the one I'm talking about. If there was nothing covering the ground, the corn grew and grew good. Just right in front of me, you can see almost nothing, then nice thick green, and then nothing. Well, that's where that heaviest residue was. Now imagine, you know, this stuff was this high when I planted. It was dead, but it was still there, and it was covering the ground. You make a mat like this is, or even this is where the tractor ran. The soil doesn't dry underneath of it. You've got leaves from all these trees, you've got this heavy residue, and this soil does not dry. Like I say, you can see it right there. That thick spot down there was bare, where this was heavy in grass. Now, one of the things I have to contend with, along with everybody else, is that where the deer have been eating it. Yeah, I had a deer out in the field when I was planting the backfield. But this right here, that soil's wet right now. And it's because the sun can't get to it. That's the problem with our soils. They hold moisture. And when you cover it, the last 5 days we've been in the 90s. And I can show you, I could show you, I won't do that. I won't break Ted's rule about showing other people's crops on film ever again, because I don't have the right. But I could show you field after field of corn that right now is curled up because it's dry. Well, I've got the opposite problem, as you can plainly see here. And this half of the field is literally because of the thick matting of grass that was here. That's why it didn't grow. And looks as it does right now. And it's kind of one of those things that this has been a 6-year experiment. Okay? Trying no-till. And in the 6 years, I've learned a lot. And the biggest thing I have learned, no-till in this soil doesn't work, because there's nobody around here that actually does it. Actually no-tills. They have the John Deere, the Kinsey no-till planters, don't get me wrong. It's just the fact that this soil, you cut a slit, drop a seed in it, seal it back up, it'll dry. When it dries hard as a rock, and it won't grow. It'll rot in the ground. Or if it does grow, it's like this, or those that have just literally look like they've just come up. You can see the grass was really thick here. But if you walk right over here, the ground is bare or close to it. There was no grass. There was nothing covering the soil. So it grew. But you go on down, the grass got thick. You go right over here, the grass was thick. Okay? We're on a slope. From where the truck is, there's a slight rise. From that rise to the end of the field, there's 6 feet of drop. Just like up there, where the barn is, it's about 6 feet. So the ground can drain. But if you have heavy residue, like I had here with this stuff, it doesn't grow that good. For a little bit of a low swag, it doesn't grow that good. But you can look from up there all the way down through here, it doesn't look good. Kind of a prime example of this. I'm going to show it anyway to prove my point. This backfield is pitiful. There's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. However, there's one important thing you can see. I have corn on this upper half. And this upper half to about right in here was pretty weed free, like this. Maybe a little tiny bit of grass, but it wasn't thick. It's thick that way. Everywhere you see out there, you don't see corn, thick grass that I planted through. And there's nothing there. Well, you can see. Deer have been here too. I can't say anything about the first 30 feet out into the field. 20-30 feet, because the trees are sucking up moisture. But this is a prime example of why straight no-till into thick cover crop or grass does not work in this soil. You can see it for yourself. That's thick down there. Sorry for the wind. I'll get out of it. There's no sense, like here, planting from here over. Nothing's going to grow. If these outside couple of rows grow, it'll only get 3-4 foot tall. That's the reason I didn't plant them. Well, like I said, where you had thick grass, where the ground was covered or is covered, and you can see there's a lot of leaves here, there's a lot of grass. and you got trees taking moisture. So I don't expect anything out of this first round at all. First couple of rounds. But when you get out into the field, yeah, there's more of that pink, orange soil. I don't know what this is. Nobody can give me an answer. Yeah. Wherever this was thick with grass, heavy with grass, the corn didn't grow that good. Now the biggest takeaway from this is the fact that as an experiment, I plowed half this field in 2012. The corn from where I plowed that way looks really good, one end of the field to the other. This hasn't actually been plowed in 10 or 15 years down through here. And like I say, the last 6 years, this has been strict no-till. Before that, it was disked or field cultivated. This ground you don't chisel plow. It's a mistake. And it's a mistake you don't want to make. If this ground, if you chisel plow this or rip it deep and it gets wet, guess what? You and the combine is going down as deep as you ripped it or worked it. Been there, done that. Everybody in this area has. We've tried it all. Now, I'll address this. This ground is not tiled. And it doesn't need to be tiled. It drains. You know, that's not an issue. Getting water off this soil is not an issue. It will drain. In fact, somewhere in here is there's two passes with the sidewinder coming this way, going diagonally across this field. And halfway down, and there's a little bit of a run that goes over through there. I put those in to move water so it didn't wash the field. This ground drains. But the biggest thing I take away from this experiment that I've been doing for 6 years, to find out what actually works and what does not work in this soil. You know, I can look on YouTube, I can read all the farm magazines you want, but the biggest thing is you don't know what their soils are like. Well, I know my soil, and it does not like anything covering it. You know, it does not like to be covered up because it won't dry. If soil won't dry, then I guess I need to spend $100,000 and get this field tiled so it'll dry. Is that the general gist of it? This is soil that needs to be worked up. Plain, pure, and simple. Not all soils are alike. And if you notice, up on the high spot, all the corn looks good, except up there where it was real thick and heavy with that grass. So that also lends credence to my theory on this as being covering the ground holds moisture. High spots are the first to dry out. Okay. But as you can see, you know, this cornfield is not that good. There's nothing to do about it. Wasn't anything I could do about it when I planted it, other than I should have worked it up. Which is what it's going to do, get done this fall or by next spring. It will be worked up. There will be no more no-till unless it's ground that I've worked. It's got rain on it and it's crusted. I guess you could call that minimum tillage then. But as far as straight no-till is concerned, I'm done with that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in this soil. Now I can't blame the plant, you know, blame the seed. I can't blame the ground for, you know, skip rows. That's planter. That's planter and seed corn issue, being it was not actually properly graded seed. Next time I plant corn, I will have graded seed for a plate planter, or I won't plant it. Small acreage farmer cannot afford to basically be in modern technology. You know, I can't afford to have $10,000 invested in a planter that's only going to get used a couple of days a year. Okay, it just, I can't do it, and I won't do it. The cost of the burn down and the herbicide for the burn down, having it sprayed, I can work the ground cheaper. So that's what I'm going to do. There's a lot of you guys that are going to tell me I'm nuts. No-till it, spend the money, get it tiled, plant, you know, rye cover crop every year. It doesn't work in this soil. And you're throwing money away to create a problem. Now, go 5 miles to the east. I know a guy that has no-tilled ground for 20 straight years. Plants rye every fall, plants it thick. He has basically a 3-inch mat over the ground, and his ground is tiled. However, he's now running into the problem that his tile is all plugged up because all the rye roots have gone down and have blocked all the drain pipes. So 20 years of no-till farming with rye cover crop has created an issue where he's going to have to re-tile the entire fields because they're just literally plugged up with root mass. But like I say, guys, I wanted to explain this. I wanted to show you this and give you an honest explanation of what I see. Heavy cover on the ground in my soil equals thin crops. Stunted crops, you might say. Because the soil gets a little soured. It gets wet and it stays wet. And this orange crap that's on this ground, I don't know if it's a bacteria, a fungus, or what it is. It's something. It's something, and I need to find out what it is. You know, right there, some of it right there. It's all over this ground. I don't know if it's something from the Roundup Ready products, or, you know, I don't know. I do find it odd that it's getting everywhere now. I mean, you can see it. I've even thought about it's a chemical reaction with the lime I put down on it two years ago or something. I don't know. But something's causing it. That's for daggone sure. At any rate, guys, I'm going to get out of here. It's hot, it's humid, it's sticky, and we might be getting rain moving in. I don't know. We got a chance for showers, thunderstorms with heavy rains. So, you know, it is what it is. We got some rain late yesterday evening on this ground. I held off till about 4 o'clock planting, or even trying to plant, because it was just black that way, and the wind was blowing toward me, which usually means, you know, rain's coming. It cleared off. I started planting. Had a couple of, you know, showers on it as I did it. Stopped and had to wait a few, 10-15 minutes, let it dry back up, and then go back at it. You don't do any good planting in the rain. I've learned that lesson. But at any rate, guys, enough of that. This is just literally why no-till in my soil literally is a 50-50 shot. It works or it doesn't. It worked over here because the ground was plowed, and I don't have the weeds over there that I do here on this ground that has not been plowed in 15 years or more. So, kind of my explanation. I showed you what it looks like. I showed you the backfield. It's too hot to get back in that back corner. That grass was, if I'd have baled that field back there, I guarantee you there would have been 500 bales come out of there, just of grass. That's how thick it was, especially on that lower side. And why this corn and this half of this field looks as thin and bad as it does is because of that thick mat that's held water. At any rate, guys, we'll see you next time. And as always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.